is Donna James with the Cerner Corporation, taking a few moments to demonstrate for you the blood transfusion workflow utilizing the Bridge Medical application. But before we begin, let's first begin by starting with the workflow itself. When we're thinking about a blood transfusion, it first starts where a patient may be deemed appropriate for a transfusion by the physician. For instance, hemoglobin may be 4.5 or 5. The physician writes two orders or enters two orders in the system. One is a type and cross order, and then an order is a transfuse order for a particular number of units for a particular blood product. While the workup and analyzing of the specimen that was sent to lab is being done with the type and cross, the nurse is preparing for the transfusion by one, making sure the patient has been educated on the transfusion, making sure a consent was signed, making sure that any medications were given, and any vital signs are captured. So when he or she goes down to pick up that unit of blood, they return back to the floor into the patient's room, and they begin by scanning the patient's wristband. Here we are in the Bridge Medical application, already signed into the application. This screen is what we call the patient identification screen. You have the patient ID field here. You want to click in that field and scan the wristband barcode. It will then pull the patient into the Bridge application. You have a banner bar here at the top that contains the patient's last name, comma, first name, middle initial, the ID number, which is equivalent to the VIN number, patient's age, gender, date of birth, medical record number, and because this is the very first time this patient has been pulled into the Bridge application, the blood type would be unknown until a unit that has been typed and crossed has been transfused. You also have available to you the room number as well as the bed number. So you're going to click Start Transfusion, and here you're going to be advanced to the next screen, which is the Start Transfusion screen. You'll notice here that there is a roadmap to help guide the user into knowing where they are in the workflow process. You also have available to you this help link to click on. This will then also guide the user in knowing what steps to take. So I clicked on the help hyperlink. It says perform the checks listed on the screen. Indicate the check has been performed by responding to the specific prompt or clicking the checkbox. You'll notice here that the documentation of the pre-checks is comprised of checkboxes, drop downs, and it can also include a free text box. As we proceed through this demonstration, I will highlight to you those particular items that need to be addressed for design, which means that you can make changes to what you see. This is one of those design items here. If you would like to pause to review the list that I have here, you can pause at that time. What you will see is an asterisk in front of each of the line items that indicate these are required for documentation. This is also a design decision when after you begin reviewing and making changes to this, if changes are needed. You will have to identify what should be required documentation. So I'm going to document all of these that are required fields. If it's not required, you can bypass it, which is what I will do by clicking continue. Next is the recipient screen. This is where you will scan the 2D or the square barcode that will be on your cross-match tag. Some facilities have called it a component tag. Some facilities have called it a recipient cross-match tag. You would scan that little square barcode and you will notice that are automatically populated. The MRN, patient's name, the unit number, as well as the blood type of the patient. Once this unit has been fully transfused, you'll notice at the end that this blood type will update to O positive. One of the things that I would like to highlight to you, or two of the things, is if the medical record number here does not match the medical record number here, then it will result in a hard stop. You will not be allowed to continue. If the name here does not match the name on the banner bar, it will also result in a hard stop and you will not be allowed to continue. So because everything matches up and is appropriate, I can click continue. Next, you're taken to the donor screen. This is the point where you will begin to scan the 4 barcodes that will be on your donor blood product. You're going to scan the barcodes in the order listed here on the screen, starting with the unit number, then the blood product, followed by the expiration date, and then lastly, the donor blood type. If the donor blood type, when it is scanned, is not compatible to the blood type of O positive that was on the cross-match tag, then it will result in a hard stop. If it is compatible, you will be advanced to the next screen. Now here I have been advanced to the vital signs screen. This is where you would enter the vital signs for the patient. You have the option of changing the date and time that you captured the vitals here by backspacing out and then clicking the X to close out the calendar. I'm going to now enter my vital signs. This is another design area that I would like for you to review. Then also pause after I completely review these components. Your drop-down items for your temperature site can be custom designed by you. You can change what's listed here. For the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to select oral. Also have the option to customize and change your heart rate sites. I'm going to select peripheral pulse. Have a 40-character limit for any comment field you would like to enter a comment. Click continue. You will now be advanced to the Start Transfusion screen. This statement here is also customizable to fit whatever you feel is the most appropriate verbiage for that start statement. Here we have select start after spiking the blood bag and starting the infusions. We have seen sites change this statement to say select start after spiking the blood bag and the blood begins infusing into the vein, or some variation of that fashion. But if you would like to pause to discuss this, this is also an area that can be changed or modified. You will then click start. It will take you back to the home screen. Here you now see a date and time listed under your start transfusion. You will also notice that there is a date and time for your record vitals. The difference that you can see is the date and time that's listed here is 15 minutes after the start date and time. These are your 15-minute vitals after the start of the transfusion. This is also customized. You can change this to 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We could even make it 15 minutes followed by 30 minutes. This is a point where if you would like to pause to discuss, you can also at this time. Now let's say for instance you have a combative patient and they have removed their IV. So you need to put that particular transfusion on hold. You can do that hold transfusion. You have options. You can select this video button here, or you can scan the unit number followed by the blood product. Cerner recommends that the unit number and blood product be scanned because there may be a time that you have 2 or more hanging, and to ensure ensure accuracy of which one you're ending, you don't want to accidentally select the wrong radio buttons. You won't be able to go back and make a change. So I'm going to go ahead and do our recommendation as far as scanning the unit number. Next, you will be advanced to the whole transfusion screen. When you click on the first field, it will pop up a calendar. You can select the current date. It will default to the current time. You do have the ability to adjust the time by backspacing and deleting and re-entering a time. You cannot, however, select a time that precedes your start date and time listing. So I cannot enter 17:06, 5, 4, any time before that. It have to be early. It can be earlier, but as long as it does not precede the start date time. Here is also a customizable moment. Your reason for hold. These are the three reasons we have available. You can change and modify these reasons. If you would like to put the video on hold as you discuss which design reasons should be added or what should be changed in the current hold, you can do that as well. So I'm going to select lost IV access and I'm going to click continue. You also have a comments field that has a 100 character limit. I will then click continue. You are now taken back to your home screen where now you have three dates. You have the date of the initial start. You have a date and time of the hold. And you still have the 15-minute vitals that's due at 17:22. Now let's say you have reaccessed another IV, another vein. You have normal saline and infusing, and you're ready to resume your hold. We click on transfusion. Again, you have the option to select the radio button, scan the blood product and number. I've already given a demonstration of what to do if you scan the unit number and blood product. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and select the radio button. Once I select it, it will populate those fields. Then I will click continue. Here I have a third field to address. This is the end hold date and time. Basically, this is the date and time that you have resumed the transfusion. So once you click in this field, a calendar will appear. You can select the current date. It will default to the current time. As long as that end hold date and time does not precede the start of your hold or the start of the transfusion. You still have a 100 character limit for any comments you would like to enter, and then you will click continue. You will be taken back to your home screen, and as you notice, there is no longer a date and time existing under your whole transfusion, which means that your transfusion that you initially started is back up and running. So now let's say, for instance, you're end of that transfusion, you had 360 cc's, all of that blood product has infused, and now normal saline is infusing into the patient's veins, and you want to end the transfusion. You will click on end transfusion, and then again, you have the option to select the radio button or scan. This time, I'm going to go back to scanning the unit number and the blood product. You would be advanced to the end transfusion where you would need to capture the volume of how much was transfused. So I'm going to enter 300. And the second question asks if there was a reaction. I'm going to select no. Another thing, you notice that there are asterisks in front of two of these items. These are required to be documented before you can proceed to the next screen. You have a 40 character limit here to enter any comments, and then click continue. At this point, you will document your end transfusion vital signs. You have your drop down. If you are computer savvy and keyboard savvy, you do have the ability to tab between fields and use your up and down arrows if you have a drop down. So I'm going to use my tab functionality, tab between down arrow. You also see indicators for highs, lows, critical highs, and critical lows. Then I will be taken back to my home screen, and as you see, there are no longer any dates and times listed because I have satisfied all of the documentation that needs to be completed for that particular transfusion. For anyone who is coming in for a shift after you and they would like to see what transfuse, what the blood product was, they can click on Browse Transfusion History for that patient, click View the information here, or click this I for information. They will be able to see all the information, who documented that. They will be able to see also the blood product that was transfused and the volume, as well as the patient's blood type and the donor blood type. Also be able to use these tabs here to see if there were any reactions, to review any vital signs captured, and you notice that your vital signs will tell you where in the workflow that vital sign was captured here in your start. Any checks that were documented for that patient, and any hold along with the hold and the user who actually held that transfusion. So that concludes a normal start transfusion. So now what I would like to do in the next workflow is to go over what we call a rapid transfusion. Okay, so let's go to the rapid transfusion. This is when you need units to be transfused into a patient quickly, and you may not have time to have those units typed and crossed, but you just want to get them hung, you want to get them started, you want to get them maintained as they are infusing into the patient. So let's say, for instance, this particular patient has 3 units that are needing to be transfused quickly and rapidly. What we're going to do is you're going to, once I go back to the home screen, I'm going to select Rapid Start. And as you notice, the system does not require that there be any documentation of any pre-checks because, again, remember, this is around rapidly hanging units of blood as fast as possible. You're going to scan the blood product, 4 barcodes on the blood product. Now, one of the things that is going to be a design decision that if you would like to pause and discuss is, would you like to have a co-signature at a rapid transfusion? This is something we can turn on or turn off based on the role or position that the person is in. So the question again to think about for your design, would you like co-signature to be activated on a rapid transfusion? So what I'm going to do is click continue. Here is the rapid transfusion co-signature. This could be turned on or turned off. Another design aspect that can be considered is to make this mandatory and or also give someone the option to bypass if necessary. If we turn this on, they won't have to document a username or a password. They can just click here to continue. If we turn this off, then a user would have to be required to enter their username and their password. So for this, I'm going to click here to continue without a co-signature. Now I'm going to be advanced to the Start statement screen. Again, this is where you made your design decision to change. This is the same statement as the previous normal start. And then you will click start. The system will take you back to the page to scan your next unit of blood. Click continue. If you happen to have a nurse with you that is available to go start, and then you can scan your next unit of blood. Here is a message that is automatically generated and is a hard stop. You notice that the continue is not active anymore. It's because this blood type is not allowed, is not an allowed substitution for this product, for this patient's historical blood type of O positive. The unit I was about to transfuse or attempt to hang in this rapid transfusion is an A positive. It is not considered as a compatible substitution, which throws this hard stop error message. At that point, the nurse will exit out, answer the prompt response to verify exiting out, and then you will be taken back to the home screen where you have your dates and times of your start transfusions, along with the 15-minute vitals. That unit of blood will transfuse as normal until it's time to end those transfusions. And then you will follow the same processes as you did with a normal start and end transfusion by clicking the end transfusion, scanning the blood product and unit number in the blood product, and then documenting if there was a reaction or not. Let's say, for instance, for one of those units that I hung, that I finished, when I go to browse transfusion history, I can see the two units that I've started through the rapid transfusion because they are red in color. I can see the unit that I had already transfused that was a normal start. But let's say for this normal start, a patient was exhibiting signs of a post-transfusion reaction. If that is the case, you already documented in the beginning that the patient had no reactions, but this no is a hyperlink. Once you select no, the system will automatically prompt you to document the signs and symptoms of reaction. These check boxes are indicated that more than one sign or symptom can be documented at one time. This is also a design decision for everyone to review all the different various signs and symptoms that we have listed, identify if any need to be removed or if any need to be added. You also have available to you an other C comment with a 250 character limit for any of the comments you would like to type in if that sign or symptom is not listed here. Once you've done all your documentation, you can click continue. The system will then advance to the post-transfusion reaction instruction screen. This screen is a read-only screen for you to follow the directions that are outlined based on policies and procedures. This is also another area to design. If you would like to stop this demo to allow some time for discussion, to identify what should be your reaction instructions, I highly suggest that you pull out your policies and procedures to help guide you on the verbiage that you would like for your statements to have. Once the nurse has followed all of these transfusion reaction instructions, he or she can click continue and then document the post-transfusion reaction vital signs. You notice my highs and lows in my critical high indicators. And you have your 40-character limit text. Click continue. And now you have your post-transfusion reaction checks. All of these are required as indicated by the asterisk in front of the line item. This is also an area of design. Like to pause this video to discuss what should be your post-transfusion reactions. Again, leverage the use of your policies and procedures to help guide you in the verbiage of your statements. The nurse will document all the steps that have taken place. And then click continue. You will notice that that particular transfusion that had a no for reactions has now been updated to a yes. If you click on the eye icon to see additional information, you did, as you saw previously, you have your start information, who started it, the patient's blood type, donor blood type, but you can also access your tabs to see what reactions were documented for that reaction. Vital signs capture. Here we now have the post-transfusion reaction vital signs listed, checks that were documented, pre-transfusion, post-transfusion reaction, and any holds that were documented to take with you. Click your back hyperlink twice to take you back to your home screen. And that concludes the rapid start. The next thing I would like to review with you with a different patient, I will scan the wristband. I want to now demonstrate for you what we call the multi-unit transfusion. This is in the cases where a series of blood products are being sent on ice to the OR and on hold in ice until they are ready for use. You will click on multi-unit transfusion. You have the choice and the option to select it if that blood product that you pull from has a cross-match tag or not. Let's say, for instance, this first one does. If it does have a cross-match tag, you scan the recipient tag, followed by the unit blood product, the 4 barcodes on the blood product. You'll notice that a row is generated at the bottom, which indicates that particular unit that is hanging. So say for instance you have multiple units that you have hanging because it's almost time or it's getting close to the time to start the transfusion based on whatever the procedure is. So let's say I have 3 units. I have 1 unit that I just scanned that has cross-match tag. Let's say I have 1 unit that does not have a cross-match tag. I will select no to the cross-match tag, and the system will bypass having to scan that portion, and then the only thing you would need to scan is the unit of blood itself. Okay, this one, here's one where it says this patient blood type does not match the patient's blood type. Because the patient is uncross-matched, this particular unit does not match. You have the option to continue. It will create a second row. That is considered as a not compatible but acceptable unit. When we work with the blood bank, we will identify which units are considered as compatible and acceptable with the warning, which you can bypass, or a product that is incompatible, not acceptable, or a blood product that is totally incompatible and is a hard stop. The next unit of blood, the third unit, I'm going to say, let's say that one does not have a cross-match tag. Select no for that third unit and scan my blood product. And we're going to continue with this one. So now you notice that there are 3 rows generated based on those units that were received. Now let's say you're in the middle of the procedure and it's time for you to pull a unit out of the cooler and you want to scan it and hang it. You're going to take that first unit and you're going to scan the unit number. When you scan the unit number, you're going to get a message that asks you, do you want to verify that particular blood product? When you select yes, it will activate that row and activate the start button. You can select start and have that unit hang. The other 2 units are in the cooler and ready when it's time to hang. But here we've got 1 unit hanging. Let's say the procedure is 5 or 6 hours and this unit is almost completed. But it's time to hang a second unit. You can pull that unit out of the cooler, scan that unit. It will also give you to verify the product. Once you select yes, it will activate that unit. You can also do the same thing for your third product. Scan the unit number, press the yes to verify that product. And as you're ready to start, click start. Start. You have all units hanging and infusing, and when it's time to end that unit, you can then click the end button. First, you want to document the volume and document if any reactions. I want to select no free. I want to end that unit. Now I have all 3 blood products infusing into that patient during the procedure. When I exit out of the multi-unit, I can go to my browse vital history to see all the units that have started and ended for that particular patient. Any volumes that are documented will have the ability to have those volumes flow over into your current documentation INO in all scripts or whatever your system is that you're using in the OR. So I have outlined the following workflows with transfusion. I have outlined the normal transfusion, the rapid start transfusion, and the multi-unit transfusion. Remember the areas that were design decisions. Please take advantage to pause those videos to have a discussion to identify what should populate in those areas so we can make the suggested changes. This finalizes the workflow for blood transfusion utilizing the bridge medical